But you'll be first next year.
I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Attorney Dempsey? Here. Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
The purpose of said public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following. File of the Council Number 78, 2019, appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2020 to and including December 31, 2020, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2020.
I just want to remind speakers that you'll have 5 minutes today to make comments on the budget. As per rules of council, if you have any questions, we ask that you please submit them in writing in order then to be properly answered. With that being said, I've known our office has already received questions in writing that will be taken care of, and I myself tonight will be taking notes for all the speakers of questions that you would have, and I'll do my best to translate them and get answers from the administration during our public caucus on December 4th. So with that said, I'll call the first speaker, Faye Frannis.
Hey, Frannis, Scranton. First off, I want to start with the garbage fee. I know this isn't a done deal yet, but I just want to voice my opinion about this. I think it's outrageous. From what I understand, from what Mr. Rogan said last week, that the fee is going to be $250, which is very good, but it was very conveniently left out of the newspaper saying that if you have an apartment building, the landlord only has to pay for one unit. In other words, if you have an apartment with six apartments in it, the landlord only pays $250, and all the other tenants don't have to pay any garbage fee at all. So I live in a block where six families don't even pay their garbage fee, delinquent, and there's about 11 apartments in my block. So those 11 families won't have to pay for their garbage fee. So I'd like to know how you could justify, I'll speak about this in regular meeting too, because I want answers on this. How could you justify saying some people have to pay and some others don't? And you know, many of these families have much garbage. Another thing, the landlord, it's up to the landlord and it's up to the tenant, it's between them. But many landlords raise their tenants' rent to make up for the garbage fee that they have to pay the city. They have in the years, all the years past. Okay, so many of these tenants had their rents raised. Are they going to get that money back? I don't think so. So there's another issue. And then Mr. Rogan stated that how we're going to make up for this. You'll never make up for all the apartments in this city that you're losing the garbage fee money, $250 from each family. You'll never ever make it up. He said they're going to make it up by making the businesses pay the garbage fee, but the businesses don't have the city pick up their garbage. They have private contractors. So they're paying the private contractors to pick up their garbage. So why would they ever have to pay the $250 fee for the city when the city is not going to be picking up their garbage? That's double taxation. It's double paying. I mean, somebody better straighten that one out too, because I would think that's illegal. I also think it's illegal that people in single homes have to pay their garbage fee, but 90% of the other people in apartments don't have to. Now, Chief of Staff, another thing about this budget, it's not like the budgets of years ago. You just put things, amnesty for the garbage fee. What does that mean? I'll ask that at 6 o'clock. Are you going to let the people that owe delinquents off all the money they owe, or how is that going to work? That I want an answer to. If not motions, whatever. And I could see hiring a company to collect the money. In other words, pay the city millions of dollars, and then they go and collect the fee. That makes sense, because the city's going to be getting money. But amnesty? No. No, no, no. Now, Chief of Staff, We hired a mayor. We did not hire a chief of staff. This is a distressed city. I see no reason whatsoever for a chief of staff. I'm sure Mrs. Cognetti could handle being a mayor without a chief of staff. And I think if you even considered this, you can't keep on creating positions or giving people what they want just because they want it and put it on the taxpayers to pay for it. You just can't keep doing this. So I don't know what you're going to do with this budget. And I also think that the police and firemen's contract, so we could look at that for the budget, that should be online, but yet it isn't. Why isn't it? It's public record. You know, they said they weren't going to go over $400,000 in the budget last year. They went to $800,000. So they didn't live up to their end of the contract. But we lived up to our end. They're getting what we told them we were going to do, and we did. But they're not living up to their end. What are the consequences if they don't live up to their end of the deal? Another thing in the budget, 39% health care increase the taxpayers are going to pay. Taxpayers are going to pay to increase their health care, 39%. Nice. That should be looked at as well. There's so many things that should be looked at. But I'll let Marie and others people talk, and I'll talk again. But please consider these. That $250 the tenant's not paying is absolutely unfair to everybody else. It shouldn't be happening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Norma Jeffries.
Good evening. Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident, and I'm not sure if I'm out of order here, but I'm sure you'll let me know. I was planning on speaking at the 6 o'clock about K&S Engineering, and one of the things that I was reading as I looked at the letter was that they suggested that we add to the personnel staff because there's 1.5 people that are employed by the staff to put up the street signs. So I was wondering if the budget for 2020 included personnel staff. I tried to pull it up online, but my computer just wasn't acting right. So I wasn't able to look and see if that additional personnel to handle the replacement of the street signs and the traffic, if that was included in the 2020 budget. That's all I have.
Okay, so just to be clear, we'll look into and ask the administration if there's been a budget arrangement for the increase of staff in order to implement the signing program.
As far as I can tell, there is not.
I'll speak later on it.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marie Schumacher.
Marie Schumacher. First, I'll bend a little bit. I noticed one of our issues is the value of our real estate. Land is down 2.0, roughly 2 million, and the investments 9.9 million. All through the boards. And again, this body, this city has a right to sit in on all of those meetings. And the failure of you people to not make sure that somebody is down there for every one of those hearings to see if you agree, it's going to keep going, because unless there's a reassessment, a general reassessment, which will take some time, but we really need to get on board with that. Okay. Now, I'd like to know what happens to the local taxes, because, thank you, President Trump, the stock market has been going up and up, and so we have a healthier pension fund. And there is a threshold of funding for the pension board, at which time we can no longer collect a triple LST, local service tax. So if we should reach that next year, what is going to take that, fill that hole? I think we need to know that. And then again, on the revenue from the permits, it just seems to me that the fees the revenue should be coming up a whole lot more than they are. Now that former Mayor Courtright is not having his hand, he's taken his hand out of cookie jar, so I would think that we would have higher permit revenue. Next, Chief of the Staff in the Mayor's office. I would certainly take that out. Number one, we have a strong mayor, and this, just save a few minutes for later. It would be helpful if this board, as their last action this year, set up a review of our home rule charter. It's long overdue. And the way it is now, it's a strong mayor, and we should not have to need a chief of staff for the mayor's office. And I think it's insulting to the incoming mayor, especially since she's a woman. I mean, to me, what that says is, oh, sorry, sweetie, you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need help. We'll get you a nice man in here who'll help you. And I don't think she needs that. I don't think any woman who's trying her best needs that. And what is the debt plan? Have we come up with any? I mean, we're paying our debt, I understand that, but aren't we supposed to be doing according to the exit plan? What's the status of that? Oh, you can't, I'm sorry. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's a hearing, you can't do. And I'm somewhat concerned. I'd like to hear a lot more about the program to sell the delinquent trash fees, and also the more information on who is proposed to have amnesty out of that same list. And then I would like to know, I couldn't find it, and I must admit I read wrong. I missed the legal notice last Wednesday, which is highly unusual for me, but I'd managed to do it. And then I looked this morning and it goes, oh my gosh, 5:15 tonight. I haven't even pulled it up. So, you know, I got the little guy off to school and then I hit it a little bit and didn't get too far. But I didn't find, and it may be in there, but I didn't find what the other post-employment benefit trust fund, how that is going to be funded. So I would like to know that. And then it does make a nice statement about stormwater management programs are a threat to our budget. It shouldn't be at this point in time. I'll finish up some more later, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the names on the sign-in sheet. Is there anybody else who would like to address council during this hearing?
Were you still doing the 30 seconds?
Joan Hodawanitz, I just got to say this. Welcome back, Tim. Where have you been?
I had no voice. I'm just starting to get it back, but thank you.
Okay, I'm glad to see you back. This is going to be a duplication of much of what I said last week and much of what's been said here, but I'll do it anyway. I want to know about the decrease in real estate, land, and improvement values that went down a total of $12 million or 3%. What measures other than reassessment will reverse this trend? On stormwater management, why don't I see any numbers in the budget? I see a reference in the narrative, no numbers in the budget for a second year in a row. So you're not going to spend any money on stormwater management in all of 2020 is what you tell me. Refuse revenue, I still am unclear how this is going to work. I understand that the tax is going to be applied to each parcel of land. But if on a parcel of land you have a apartment house with 4 units, how does that work? Is that $1,000 or $250? You need to clarify that. The payroll preparation tax, I'm still unclear on that. I was under the impression that both the school district and the city had to opt for the payroll preparation tax. Can the city do it by itself? Well, I hope you're going to do it, because I think it's the right way to go. And what happens after we come out of distress status? How long can we have $156 LST if we come out in August? Isn't that changed?
We've asked that question before, and I believe the answer is it doesn't really have any affiliation with Act 47. It has to do with the underfunded pension fund. So as long as our pension fund is deemed underfunded, then we're allowed to access that, apply for that every year, and apply that money towards pension funding.
This is the local, this is the
Yes.
LST tax, not the local services tax. I'm talking about the $156 emergency service tax. Okay. I didn't understand the increase in interfund transfers from 4.1 million to 9.3 million. No, nothing in the narrative. Again, tell me about the non-resident wage tax going from $520,000 to $100,000. No explanation. Miscellaneous revenues. What asset are we selling under sale of assets for $2.2 million? Nothing in the narrative on that. Mayor's office, again, on the chief of staff, how much money is set aside for this optional salary? I didn't see that anywhere. The increases in healthcare in the unions, the narrative says because they were under budgeted in 2019. I want a better explanation on that. How did that get under budgeted? Information technology, I still want to know why they need, quote unquote, another dedicated vehicle in a 3-man department. That doesn't make sense. And their pay increases, $7,000 to the director and $5,000 to each of his 2 subordinates. That's a lot of money when the controller is flat at $40,000, which is much of what some of the secretaries make. Your controller, who's the city's internal watchdog, fiscal watchdog, you're going to pay that position only 40 grand. I don't understand. And finally, the Bureau of Fire is going from 124 personnel to 139. Why are they increasing by 15 personnel? I didn't see anything in the narrative to explain that. Thank you, and you have copies of my questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to address council this evening? Okay, if not, then I'll call this public hearing to a close. Thank you.